Hello, everyone. Welcome on our webinar. My name is Marek Niewieś, and I'm the founder of Codilime. Today, I will discuss with you and my colleague Monika Antoniak
Hello, everyone.
how to leverage network automation for operational efficiency and growth. Let me add to it that Monika is responsible for engineering at Codilime and practice of professional services. Maybe briefly, what we will discuss today. First, myself, Monika, will try to ease you into the topic, establish common vocabulary, and explain to you conceptually what is the network automation journey. And then we'll try to provide you with a roadmap how to actually start on this journey, how to easily get started there. Second part of the presentation, we'll be discussing some business cases we've prepared for you, and we'll provide you with a framework or try to frame the topic of how to justify such an investment and what kind of returns you can expect with the automation. We will finish with conclusions and some considerations. I would like to encourage you to write down questions for the Q&A session that will happen at the very end of the webinar. So with that, I think we are ready to start. And Monika, if you can actually tell us about network automation, why we are here.
So, hello again. Why we are talking about network automation? Well, network automation gets traction these days. This is a topic that is being talked about more and more often. So there are special events that are actually dedicated and focus on network automation. And such event was AutoCon that was held at beginning of this month or end of last month. That was like 5 days together with the workshops. There will be AutoCon 2, which is planned for autumn this year. So there are things that there are events that are considering and they are focused actually on the automation. Moreover, there is more and more tools available for everyone to use and that help with the network automation. And also what is very important, we as a Codilime are quite heavily involved in the network automation. And of course, there's many talks and many different topics and many different like webinars or podcasts regarding network automation, which are quite focused on the technical side. So the upskilling, the tooling, the platforms. What we wanted to do is to say more about the business side of the automation. So that's why we're here today.
All right. And maybe with that, we can smoothly go into the topic, actually, who can consider the network automation today?
So let me ask you the question, how very online you are?
I think more than I would like to be.
Okay, so just as myself. So people like you and me are online most or all the time. So the same goes with the businesses. So with the businesses and with the in the digital world, like almost every business is based on network or on infrastructure. So if I would to make a simplification, that I would say we have like two types of businesses. First, which uses network and infrastructure just to deliver their services, which are not really network and infrastructure related. And the other one for which the network or the infrastructure is actually a service. And in both of those cases, everyone needs network and infrastructure to deliver the service. So in the first case, when we only use the network, it has to be reliable. It has to be, you don't really want to think about it. It's just there and you will have to use it. In the second one, of course, the reliability is very important. But what is also important is that when you have a new service, you want to introduce it very fast. So with both of those cases, the network automation is something that can help you. And of course, in the long run, with the automation, you can also think of the operational cost reduction.
All right. And as with anything, like a new thing, starting a journey with the new thing, there are some potential fears that businesses and people can have. Can we maybe talk a bit about that to get people some comfort here?
So yes, every change raises some concerns and some fears and some reluctance, and this is only natural. I mean, we are human. We are only human. We think like that. So with the automation, of course, this is something that is happening for everyone. So the first one, I would say, this is the concern of being replaced. So people are afraid to lose their jobs. They are afraid that they will be exchanged for someone who can do different things or for something, because with the AI today, this is also some kind of a fear. So that's one of the things. The other is the reluctance of learning new things, because let's be honest, network automation comes with the software development under the hood. This is software development like GitOps, like repositories, everything is in there. So it's that, so it is there. You have to learn it. So that's another thing. And the third thing, very, very human, is the fear of losing control. Today, when operation people do their work, I know it myself because I'm also a network engineer. Well, I quite often use the CLI. So I have the feeling of touching the machine. With the automation, that's no more there because it's the automation that does the thing for you. You don't have this look and feel, you don't touch this. So this is the third thing. And honestly, this is something that, again, we are human. We will be afraid of this. So that's how, like, I would say those are the three most common fears that I can see with the network automation.
Okay, so I guess from the person perspective, we need to get ready to deal with those fears, but maybe on the business front, there might be some different kind of worry or fear. I mean, specifically maturity of the ecosystem. Is it already there? Can we really start with that, or we should wait a bit?
So that's the good thing. You just said that this is the ecosystem. This is the landscape that we are talking about. It's not a single tool. It's not a single solution. There's no one size fits all solution. It's not with the network automation. You can think of an automation of network or infrastructure automation as microservices in the software development realm. So this is pretty much the same. You have a set of tooling, a set of different things available. You can mix and match them just to build your end-to-end solution. So it can be a mix of everything, like open source solution. It can be a mix of the shelf commercial solution. Why not? You can develop something yourself. So this is those are the things you can use to do it. And the tooling, some of them is already with us for years. I mean, we've already talked, there are some code repositories. It's been there for years. So the same goes with the CI. So it is mature. And the awareness of the maturity is getting higher and higher every day.
All right. So if we have, ecosystem already quite mature, we discussed what's actually this journey is about, for whom and why. With Monika, we've prepared for you as well a short roadmap or like a place to start on this journey to make it a bit easier for you. So Monika, if you can maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yes, we talk about something in Codilime. We talk about network automation journey. So we have defined like 5 steps you can take just to take this journey. So the first one is source of truth, which I prefer to call source of intent, but let's not start discussing of that topic today. There's also script-based automation as the second step. There is also a step for a digital twin or building or having one. There is a special tick for automated pre and post checks, and also with introducing some platform-based automation. What is really important is that not all of them are always needed, because that would be dependent on your organization, on your infrastructure, on your network. Even the order is not mandatory. So what you need to understand is that they can be done in steps. So there is time to adapt. You don't have to take everything at once.
So maybe, for the newcomer to the space, to get me more comfortable, you've mentioned those 5 steps that are here on the screen right now. Are not all of them are necessary, and the particular order is as well not fixed. Like, so maybe to make it easy, what would be your one thing, one or two, that a business organization, the leaders should think about first?
So for me, my personal feeling is that source of intent is the first step and mandatory step. This is because source of intent is a place where you have all your intentions. You know what you place the things you want to do. So the network or the infrastructure, they don't have to be ready. It doesn't have to be there. The configuration doesn't have to be ready, but you need to know where you're going. And in that way, you know where your gaps are. So this is, for me, it's the mandatory first step. The rest, you can choose, you can mix and choose what you need.
All right. So you should start with source of truth or source of intent, as you prefer. With that, I think we can jump into the second part of the webinar, which will consider some cases and return on investment. So how you should think about it. With Monika, we've prepared kind of a few things that should help you justify this investment and frame your thinking around this topic. And we'll jump right to it now.
So if we are talking about return on investment, I would say two things are important. First, the loss prevention, and the second, cost reduction. So if we are talking about loss prevention, is basically the downtime or any kind of failure to your infrastructure. Why? Because this is something that will happen. It's not the question of if, it's the question of when. And the question is also how very fast you can recover from it. So when a lot of your task is automated, for sure you can increase your operational efficiency. This is something that is like natural with the automation. Also, your network on the infrastructure is more reliable because you lack the human errors. Everything is automated. Machines don't make mistakes. We as humans do. So that's why you can both have increased operational efficiency and enhanced reliability. But this is this loss prevention side. You let's say you prevent your losses, but also there's a cost reduction element. Why? Because we've already mentioned the microservices approach, so we can mix and match. And with the automation, when you are building the blocks that you can use then for building the workflows, you can reuse them. They should be built in a way you can reuse them. So if you're building something new and you service and you workflow anything, and you can reuse like, I don't know, 80, 90% of those blocks, then look at the cost reduction. You'll have to redo the job you've already done. So this is only a fraction of the initial cost. And in that way, this is a significant, not only significant cost reduction, but also there is, for example, a new service, time to market is much faster.
That's very good point. And I think when you have to explain or justify some investment, of course, enhance reliability, this is important, but what really is clear to the decision makers are potential savings. That's why we focused with Monika on the next slide, on the potential risks that you can mitigate and deal better with thanks to the automation. So Monika, maybe we can spend some time on it.
Yes. So on this slide, we just focus on the downtime. So because, as I said, this is something that will happen sooner or later, for a shorter, hopefully, or a longer period of time. And as research say, the cost of downtime can be up to $9,000 per minute, which is a huge amount of money. So so if you can take a look at the numbers on the slides, those numbers varies, but for the brokerage service industry, this is over, as you can see, it is almost 6.5 million per hour, which is a huge number. So of course it will be varied depending on the industry, on the business model, but downtime is always a cost, and the reduction of downtime. So if you can recover faster, if you can do postmortem faster, this is something that you can actually save money, a lot of money, and of course also save your reputation, because the downtime is only direct costs. There's also reputation damage. There's influence on your employees because they are overstressed, they are overworked. You lose your productivity because you have to you have to fix the failure instead of just doing your job. So there's a lot of things coming with the downtime. So if we can shorten it as much as possible and not repeat it after, because we can do a valid postmortem, that's a huge gain.
I hope with that explanation from Monika, it should be easier for you to prepare a case how to justify such an investment. And now we've prepared with Monika as well 2 cases for you, and we'll jump right to the first one.
So yes, the first one is a device upgrade, a really common operational task happening every now and then, or rather quite often. So you can imagine you have a new software version to be applied to the devices. You have a lot of devices, like hundreds. You have maintenance windows only to do the job, and you have production network, which should be available like 24/7. So no downtime or insignificant downtime is expected. So to do that, you would need to do automation, because you can do upgrade manually, but it will take time. So you can do only so much with the manual upgrade. So with the automation, you can actually build all end-to-end automation and all the end-to-end upgrade, including pre and post checks. This is one of the steps. So if those are automated, you are actually sure that you didn't break anything in the process. So that's why with the device upgrade, a really common operational task, network automation is something that actually should be heavily used.
All right. And what about the scale here? Like, I can imagine that if I have like small size business, and though in this case, I don't know, there are just a couple of devices to be upgraded, I can still manage to do it. I don't want to say fully manually, but not fully automated. Is there a specific threshold at which you cannot actually imagine doing those upgrades without proper network automation?
Okay, let's imagine a very specific case. You have like 500 devices to be upgraded. It's like normal number. You have only 10 maintenance window, so not that many. I will be very generous. I will give you 6 hours for the maintenance windows. Will never happen probably, but let's have it 6 hours. So that means that you have to do 50 devices per 6 hours. That really won't happen with the manual with the manual upgrade, especially when you have to do the pre and post checks just to make sure you didn't break anything. So without the automation, you will just hit the wall. Okay, you could ask me probably if I can prolong the windows. I could have, I don't know, 20 or 30 instead of 10. Well, you could, yeah, that's a fair ask. But what if this is like some security patch? You don't want to prolong the window because this is like introducing vulnerability for a longer time. So that's why you will hit a wall at some point. So you cannot do it without the automation.
I think that's a very good point, that doing an upgrade to release a new feature is one thing. Of course, with scale, you will hit certain difficulties. Maybe at some point it will not be possible, but if you have a security issue and you want to mitigate it, apply the patch, you want to be as quick as possible. And sometimes, you might not be able to schedule so many different maintenance windows to upgrade all the devices. So I get your point. With that, I think we can go to the second case that we have for today. It's on the ZTP front.
Yes, this is ZTP, so zero touch provisioning, not a new thing. I know a lot of people already use it and already know it. So again, we have a device, we have a customer, we want this device to be deployed with and provisioned with the customer, but the customer doesn't have to be a technical person at all. They don't have to, and they want to do it like almost 24/7 because you don't know where they want to provision new service. So it has to be available all the time. And that is something that is happening. But if you can imagine, like, I don't know, if you are an ISP and you are sending your customer your CP, that will work. You will have the ZTP. The same goes with some kinds of SD-WANs, but this is like only a solutions. And what is important is that this ZTP provisioning or it's only an excuse just to say that with the automation you can have this look and feel, you can have the same behavior with almost anything. It doesn't have to be CPE. You don't have to Vernon lock-in, because we've already mentioned there's a lot of things to choose from. So you can provide this automation and some kind of service almost everywhere.
So this give you some kind of, I don't know, like an abstraction layer that, for instance, for one branch, I will have the set of features enabled by the provider A, on the second branch by the provider B. And if I have proper orchestration, network automation, I can have some kind of an abstraction layer. That means that if I want to add a new feature, it doesn't really matter whether it's A or B. I can have it above it and it will work smoothly.
From the umbrella level, yes, this is exactly. But because from the end user level, with just points and clicks some stuff on the portal, they don't even know what's underneath. They don't have to know, because from their perspective, you just want to have, for example, a connectivity, and that's it. They don't have to know. The automation, the orchestration, it will take care of it.
So both branches, users, they will not even know, but it will work smoothly. And if I'm operating this, I will not have to, replace and unify in branch A and branch B the solution. I can just have it on
because
top
you can
of it.
do something on top of it, like an umbrella.
All right. I think with that, we can go to the summary. So we discussed just some cases for you, and let's jump into the summary. First of all, some opportunities that starting on this journey will bring you. So as Monika has said, unification and reduction of the errors, very important thing. On the case that we discussed, when you will be hitting certain walls, introducing changes at scale, especially those related to cybersecurity, are much easier to do and sometimes only possible in this way to do it in a timely manner. Freedom to use best tools for the job, this concept of, metaphor of microservices here. And I think very important, simplified tracking of changes. So if you build your source of intent first, even if some issue will happen during an upgrade, you should be able to track what's happened exactly, and that should give you much faster root causing. As with any new thing, there will be some things that you have to consider. Maybe seek a partner that will help you do that quicker. Definitely Monica's team will be able to help you with that. So first of all, you will have to have a deep understanding of the infrastructure and in general of the domain, because you want to set yourself up for the success. Next thing is for your team, certain new skill set might be required, and definitely change of the mindset. You might not be touching the machine directly anymore, but this is, the new concept to work with, and there are benefits to it, of course. What is important and relevant here is precise planning. And if you have a, let's say, very sophisticated use case, you might need some custom solution, but I guess you and your team can help with that too.
Yes, of course. What is also important to note here is that this can be done in a step-by-step approach. It doesn't have to be all at the same time, all at once. So this is can be done in a baby steps. And that's why it gives people and organization time to actually learn and adapt. So this is very important. It's not one big blob, it's just step-by-step journey.
So maybe even a smaller investment at the beginning, and you can, see the results, whether those are the ones that you were expected, and then continue further.
Exactly, in an agile way, because maybe you can just skip one step if you don't need it.
Makes sense. All right, before we'll jump to the Q&A part of the webinar, I would have for you two announcements. First one, consider our workshops, and maybe Monica, you can explain a bit.
Yes, so I'm very excited to share this one. So because for the webinar attendees, we offer a complimentary personalized workshop, which for you and your team will help to say what is your automation readiness. So it will give you the readiness assessment. So if you are interested, if this is something that is interesting for you, please contact us on contact@codilime.com.
By the way, I'm sure Monica will write you back if you will hit her up on the LinkedIn or via
for sure, yes.
So no worries there. And the second one considers our next webinar that will happen on the July 18th. Our colleagues Radosław Kochman and Mateusz Sugocki will talk about test automation in SD-WAN. I think this will be very informative and very interesting webinar. High-level architecture, key concept of SD-WAN, everything described by our experts for you. So book your slot now, save your date. July 18 will be with you. And now I think we can go into the Q&A part. Monica, maybe we'll do it in the way that I will read the question from the screen.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And I will give you the chance to answer. So the first question is, what do you mean by script-based automation? Today, many engineers use script to help them with their day-to-day tasks.
Yes, that is correct. And it will be not fair to say that it doesn't happen. It happens all the time. This is correct. So everyone does their own scripting. But that's exactly the thing. They do their own scripting. There's no sharing of the script. There's no common repository. There's no review process like we have in the software automation. With the automation approach, we all apply and implement this approach to do automation. So you actually end up with a set of tools that are reusable and can be reused by even more junior people to use them and to learn on them. And today it's more like everyone has their own. So everyone does their own and they do it in their own way. We will, with the automation, we will introduce the unification of it.
I think like from the business perspective, there is benefit to having one suite of verified, reviewed scripts that you can repeat and repeat, not that every person, every team member uses their own. So definitely there is some benefit to that. I see we have a few more questions. I will go with the next one. How do you automate older equipment that don't have APIs?
Oh, again, correct. Not every equipment has APIs because there are some traditional, let's say, more legacy equipment that don't have it. But there are always, well, you can always use SSH and a CLI. This is something that you can automate as well. So if there is no other way, that's also the way to do it. So you can use it. It's probably not that comfortable as using APIs, of course, but it's still doable. And always with the automation, this is like with the SRE approach. You automate things that make sense. If there's a single device, you have no APIs to it, there's no reason to spend like months on automating it. Just do it manually, because that doesn't make sense to do it with the automation.
All right, and we have one more question. Thanks, Frank. Actually, there's a two parts, so I will read first part, let you answer, Monica, maybe, and then we'll jump to the second part. So the first part is regarding source of truth, or as Monica prefers, source of intent. So with source of truth comes standardization of configurations and services. What's yours?
So
I guess where you store it?
I guess what we are thinking about it, right? So yes, it comes. I would say that unification is the natural process of the automation, and that's actually what we are hoping for. Because when we come to a new, let's say, a new network, like we have a new challenge to have, and we say like a network that, well, it has years, so there's a lot of different equipment, different devices, a lot of different configuration. First thing we need to do is to find some common ground. So we just need to do some kind of clustering, just to understand what are the groups, what is common within the groups, and then we try to do unification. Because this is correct, automation works well with the unification. If you have like 10 totally different devices, there's no reason to do automation to it. Maybe with some operational tasks like upgrade, for sure. But if from the configuration perspective, that's not the best case for the automation. With the scale and with the unification, for sure, that's it.
And is there a specific, standard or way of storing this source of truth? Like, how do you store it?
No, and I would say that there are different approaches, because for now there's not even a standard for what you store, not even how, but what. For some, it will be configurations of the intentions. For some, if you have source of truth, you would just take the configuration from the network and put it into the source of truth. So that really depends what you mean. But also with the source of, as I say, source of intent, I would also put the designs, the intentions, not only the configuration, but yes, configuration as well, or more precisely golden templates. Then you can then use to generate configurations. But there is no real standard for it, and there is many different tools or platforms that serve as a source of truth.
I hope this answers the first part of the question. And the second part touches on the digital twins. So the question is, where do you want to put it, this digital twin?
So this is something that is very interesting, because when you have a network, you introduce new service. Sometimes you just want to you just want to test the service on something. You can have a lab, of course. Sure, you can have a physical lab. That's obvious, but that's very costly, not very scalable. You don't have to. You cannot scale it very well. So first, I would use digital twin just to test some services, and of course, I can also test automation on a digital twin, because that will work. What would serve as a digital twin? That really depends. The popularity, what gains popularity lately, is container labs, because it's lightweight. These are the containers, so you can use it. But there are also different approaches. There's like there are some open source like GNS3 and other things. There are some commercial ones. I think we have one blog post that gathers all of that, all of those tools. So it's there. But I would first use it for new services, for checking the new services, for checking the automation I want to use on the network. That's very important. I don't want to break anything. And of course, I would use different approaches depending on what I need, actually. Of course, you can do it in connection with the physical lab, because you can have like a hybrid.
All right. I think we have one more question. Do you bring your own solution when you build an automation, I guess, for the customer?
Do we bring our own solution? No, as Codeline, we are not a product company, so we don't bring our own solution. On the contrary, we just look at what customers have, and we just choose the best tool for the jobs among what's available on the market. They don't have to be open source tools. They can be off the shelf, like commercial. That really depends what customer has. But yeah, we always choose the best one. We don't come with the specific solutions in mind. That's not how it works.
So in general, I guess first we'll audit or assess what customer has and try to understand what they want to achieve with already what they have, and then pick the best one that is for this case.
Correct.
I'm sure during those workshops with Monica that you can request, if you are a viewer of this webinar, we can get there and quickly answer what would be the solution in your case. All right, I think that was the last question. I would like to thank all the viewers for being with us and hearing us out. Monica, a special thanks to you for sharing the knowledge. It was really a pleasure.
It was a pleasure also to be here for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you on our next webinar. Bye-bye, guys.